Ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the December 5th meeting of the Bossier Parish School Board Finance Committee. The Finance Committee is a committee of the whole, that is, all members of the board serve on this committee. We have a very short agenda this evening, and we only reserved an abbreviated time period, so we'll move right ahead. First item is a request for approval of the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire, which will be presented by Ms. Nisha Bamberg. Ms. Bamberg.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Bullard, Superintendent Rowland, and members of the board. Thank y'all tonight for a meeting together. Tonight we wanted to present the Louisiana Compliance Questionnaire. This is a required part of our financial audit each year, and we are required to have the board adopt this. It's a basic questionnaire asking about different compliance with different state laws. We have completed that questionnaire, and tonight we're asking your approval of that and adoption.
He's heard Ms. Bamberg's presentation. Are there any comments or questions? If not, do I hear a motion?
So move it.
Have a motion by Mr. Wiggins, second by Mr. Faulting. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. It is unanimous. Moving on to item number 2, a request for approval of a differentiated compensation supplement schedule and the guidelines. Again, Ms. Bamberg, I believe you were.
Yes, sir.
I believe you're going to be in charge of everything on this agenda, so
I think so.
take it and run with it. Thank
Yes,
you, ma'am.
sir. Okay, so as y'all know, last year was the first year that we received the differentiated compensation funding. So this is a state allocation that they give us each year, and or last year and this year. It's not a guaranteed source of revenue moving forward, but this year we did receive $595,187. So the differentiated compensation, if y'all remember in September, we brought y'all a recommendation to pay some supplements out of that for some of the high poverty schools and for teachers within those areas. So that was using last year's funding. So tonight we're bringing our recommendation for this year's funding. So in the past, the district has paid scores based on evaluations from the Compass system. At one time, the state was providing us funding for that. The state stopped providing funding several years ago, but we have continued paying that based on those evaluation scores with Compass. As y'all know, the NIET system, or the LEAD system, has replaced the Compass system for the 24-25 years. So the evaluations moving forward will no longer be within the Compass system. But we would like to use the differentiated compensation funding to pay a larger supplement this year to those teachers and instructional coaches that received a highly effective rating. And so I provided y'all those guidelines that we have drafted up in the proposed plan of how we would pay that for y'all to read over, I guess, last week. And so tonight we're asking y'all's approval for that plan.
As Ms. Bamberg pointed out, she provided us with the guidelines as well as the levels of compensation and identified the individuals that would, or the areas that would qualify. So, Mr. Superintendent.
I just want to make the board aware that there is no component in LEADS or NIET in the evaluation process going forward for any type of supplement or stipend. So this would be the final year that we would be faced with that. Since Compass is being phased out of the new evaluation tool, then we would not address this in next year's budget, nor anticipate paying that out going forward.
Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion. Motion by Ms. Smith, second by Ms. Poole. All in favor, please raise your hand. It is unanimous. The third and final item is a discussion-only item, and that is an update on potential pay raises for fiscal year 25-26. Ms. Bamberg.
Yes, sir. So, as y'all know, we were asked to bring back some recommendations and some evaluation at the December meeting of a potential pay raise for the next fiscal year. And so we have gone through, the superintendent and I and the administrators have been talking among ourselves about and calculating what that would look like and what we feel comfortable with at this point. So there's kind of two components once we start talking about a pay raise for next year that I think we definitely have to consider. One is as y'all are all aware of, the extra special session of the legislation. And so that's kind of one component in the pay raises that are going to be stipulated out of that, the actions of that session. And then the second part would be if as a district, if there was anything that we could give on top of that. So there's kind of two-prong approach to this tonight. As y'all know, the state, it passed through the 2,000 and the 1,000 pay raise from the state if the unfunded liability were to be paid off with TRSL. So one thing to keep in mind with that is the way that it is written at the state level is that 2,000, 1,000 is for those that are within the TRSL retirement system. As y'all know, we have people that are outside of that system. They're within the ELSR system. We also have a handful in the laser system. But even with that increase, obviously our recommendation would be to do that 2,000, 1,000 across the board. We also have to keep in mind we don't want to end up with a compression again of ours, so we would have to apply factors to it. And so we've started considering what that would look like with applying that pay raise that would be from the state that would be offset by that reduction in the unfunded liability in the TRSL system. The one good thing is that the ELSR system is also projecting a reduction in their retirement rate by 3.8% for next year. So that's also going to help offset this. So we do feel confident that we will be able to use that reduction from the retirement and that unfunded liability pay down to be able to fund that 2,000 and 1,000. What our recommendation will be when we're able to present it to the board for an action item is that we would want to apply it to our current salary schedules and use the factors, which would mean, as you know, applying it as the base for each scale and then letting the factors multiply it from there for each step, the step increases and the grade increases from there. So that is one that we would like to bring in the spring, assuming all of that continues to move forward. As I said, the other part of it is we wanted to consider, we've started considering what we think we can do as a district for next year. And we do feel confident, the ad valorem, the roll forward did pass, and we do feel confident that we will be able to bring something in the spring, assuming no major unknown changes. There's still a lot in the air. As y'all know, we've got the March 29th election to adopt the constitutional amendment that they are wanting. There's going to be a lot of revenue sources that are kind of in the unknown, from inventory tax to severance taxes to the different changes that are there. What we can speak on tonight is because we did pass the roll forward, we are anticipating an increase in the ad valorem for this year of around $4 million. That tax roll has been approved and those taxes have been assessed, so that's a positive. For the original budget for this year, I estimated a 10% decrease in sales tax. That was based on the trends at the end of last fiscal year. We were seeing some very significant double-digit decreases some months in the sales tax. What I can tell you is it is doing better than anticipated so far this fiscal year. So the first 5 months of the fiscal year are looking good. So the first 4 months of sales are looking very positive this year. So that is a positive as well. September sales were actually higher than prior year October sales. So we actually saw an increase for that month, which I have not seen in the last probably 7 or 8 months. So that was a positive as well. So we're seeing a good positive uptick in sales tax. And so I don't think that decrease in that budget line item will be as large as what was originally budgeted. So we do think we'll have an excess there as well. One big unknown for us right now, though, is our MFP funding. The MFP committee and the calculation has not been approved for next year for the MFP. And so what we would really like to do is to continue to monitor the collections over the first quarter of '25 calendar year 25, so that we can see what that's going to look like, as well as look at that election on March 29th and see what those results are. What our goal, though, is we are really shooting for a pay raise of 2 to 3% for the staff across the board and across all areas. That is the goal. I can tell you we are hesitant. We don't want to underproject what we're able to give. We don't want to overproject what we're able to give. We want to make sure that we are able to give a fair and equitable pay raise to the employees that is in a sustainable fashion. But there's just a lot in the air right now. And so I don't feel comfortable making a motion for a movement tonight, but we did feel like we had enough information to go ahead and start sharing, so.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions? Mr. Rowland?
Thank you, Chairman Bullard, and thanks, Ms. Bamberg, for the work that we put into this. And like she said, this is really a two-pronged approach. We know what we have right now and what has been accomplished, but then there's some supposition about what might happen on March 29th with the new constitutional amendment, with a vote on the constitutional amendment, which will reflect teachers and support personnel at $2,000 and $1,000 apiece. So the opportunity to add these together could be something significant for our employees across the board. I would caution the board that we want to be, we would like for the MFP calculations to already be determined before we determine anything. What we would hate for the State Department or someone to look at the funding that Bossier Schools has to give salary increases to teachers, and then actually create something different for us via MFP formulas. So we'll let them determine the formula, and then I think it would be prudent and wise for the board then to act and to come up with things for the 25-26 school year.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Faulting?
Yes, thank you so much, Nisha, for calculating all this. And a couple of questions. On the 2,000, 1,000 from the state, were you saying that not everybody would get the full 2,000 and 1,000, that it would go based off schedule? Or?
No, everyone would get at least that.
Okay.
And so we would apply the 2,000 and the 1,000, depending on which one applied to each scale. That would go on the base step and grade for that scale, and then the factors and the formulas would apply from there for the step increases to eliminate the compression.
Gotcha. Next question is in regards to our taxes, and you said they were higher than last October. I really would like, well, if we could get an update, in 30 days from now, of where we stand as far as what potentially we could do, but also with Live opening next year and Chasing Aces opening next year, I think our tax revenue is going through the roof. So point being is that I would like to throw out the 2% number. I don't think a 2% raise would accomplish anything at all. For a lot of teachers, it wouldn't even be or parents, it wouldn't even be $1,000 a month. And I think if you could, and I think we should be willing to take the risk on our teachers and support staff to go to do a minimum of 3%, if not higher. I would like to see a 4.5%, and I think it's worth the gamble of trying to do that, but I would like for a raise that is substantial to a teacher that actually will make a difference, that after taxes and stuff, it's not just a few dollars, if possible. So.
Okay, absolutely.
Any other questions or comments? I'd like to follow up on one comment that Mr. Rowland made. Ms. Bamberg, you and I have been in communication regarding the proposed constitutional amendment and that aspect of which would dissolve 3 trust funds. And those funds then would be applied to the accrued liability for our insurance. While that will reduce, supposedly, our insurance cost, we are deriving funding from various of these sources.
Yes, sir.
And as I understand it, you are in the process of preparing a report to us that would indicate what amounts we would lose if, in fact, this proposal is approved by the voters.
Yes, sir. Two of the trust funds we receive yearly allocations from. One of them is the e-funding, or the tobacco money, that y'all are familiar with. We get $400,000 to $500,000 a year from the e-funding, and that is used for educational expenses. Primarily, it's used for some curriculums and other instructional type items within the schools. One of the other programs actually funds one of our preschool programs, the 8G preschool program, and that one's about $250,000 a year under that funding. So it's two significant funding sources for us.
Thank you. We will all be monitoring that very closely, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
If there are no further comments or questions, I believe that completes our agenda. We will stand adjourned.